what's going on, guys? Nick from Confident Video here, and today I have a special guest with me. I have Jerry Jewell, or is it Jewell? Jewell, alright. And he is a voice actor, and we are at Geek Kon right now, and he is willing to take the time to interview with me, so thank you very much.
My pleasure.
And some of the things he's been in, I have quite a long list as
a very long list.
Some of the notable ones: Bakano, Fullmetal Alchemist, Haganai, Detective Conan, Hetalia Fairy Tale, and those are all the things he's voice acted. And recently you've been doing directing now, correct?
I have been an ADR director, yes.
And so some of those were Bloodseed and Defrag. So we'll start off with some voice acting questions, because I know a lot of people are interested in that kind of thing, and then we'll move into more of the meat and the bones about like directing and all that, because that's the kind of thing that interests me. So the first one is, what did you kind of do before voice acting, and like how did you get in, and then what was kind of like your first experience like?
Okay, that's a good question. Before voice acting, I had done theater all throughout school, so I had experience in performing. Kids out there.
Very important.
Very important. Experience in performing. Be an actor if you want to be a voice actor. First, just be an actor. Musician, I have always had a day job. All of the years I was working at Funimation before I was directing and working for the company, I always had a day job because I like to eat, you see. And eating is a good thing. You can't get more parts in more shows if you're dead because you didn't eat. Very important as well. And I had a friend, some of you may have heard of him, Justin Cook, who kind of was working at Funimation as a sound engineer. And we had been in theater together in high school and whatnot. He asked if I wanted to come try out for some parts, and I did. And after that, I got to audition for Mr. Sabat, and I just kept doing it.
Awesome. So that's kind of like a common thing that I almost see a lot of voice actors is like, it's a weird one, but musician seems to be a really common thing that a lot of voice actors kind of have. Is there any particular reason behind that? Do you just think it's a lot of people just enjoy the arts, or is
Performance is performance. I mean, I think once you've experienced it in a couple of different arenas, you find that they're not really that different. There are of course some technical skills with playing music, but the performance aspect really runs through every kind of performance there is. So, but musicians happen to be really good with timing. So whenever there's a sentence or a paragraph, they're really good at picking up on how long it took. We'll listen to the line first, we'll preview it first, and they listen for the timing instead of trying to do too many things at one time. They'll listen for the timing. So musicians are just better at timing.
Yeah, that's super interesting, because that's always something that I always would hear come up in like interviews and stuff like that, is that voice actors a lot of the times, some of them are musicians, and I hear like that, and that was really curious to me. So, how different was it for you starting out as a voice actor as it is now? How much has like the industry changed? Like how much was it different for you, like technically and stuff like that?
I'm so much more comfortable doing it now. I used to get frazzled every time I stepped in the booth in the beginning because I wasn't quite sure what was going on, and you're trying to read a script and watch the picture at the same time, and that becomes difficult. But now I don't even have to think about it that much. I kind of go in, listen and watch, do the line, and hopefully be done with it. It takes me a lot less time than it used to take me to do it. Anime's gone through a lot since then. Back when I started voice acting for Funimation, there were still very few people doing it. Very few voice actors, smaller group of people all around. So more of us were doubling up roles, so it could be, you could have one person that might be 4 different bit parts in a show. And there's more out there now. There's so much more anime out there now, and Funimation as a company, I feel, especially lately, over the past couple of years, has become all about the fan experience, and that's what they're pushing towards, is they want to be all about the fan experience. And of course, as a business, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Those are the people that are buying the product. Everything's geared towards the fan. So all the broadcast stuff that we're doing, all of those things are because we want to give the fans what they want.
That's very great to hear, definitely, for sure. A lot of Funimation fans would be very grateful to hear that. So, the next thing is kind of like the process behind voice acting, because I think a lot of people might have some misconceptions about how it kind of works. I've heard some people think that all the voice actors are almost in the booth at the same time.
No.
And is there anything that you've kind of heard fans ask about that might not necessarily be true?
Well, we do all of the actors one at a time. So it's one actor in the booth at a time, unless we're doing a group walla session, which are, for those of you that don't know, that's anytime there's a crowd in a scene or you hear a background crowd somewhere. If they are things that are specific to the show, we will call in a group of people to all be in there at the same time so they can sound like a crowd. And oftentimes it'll only be 4 people,
Yeah.
and we'll get them talking like this, then we'll get them talking like this, then we'll get them talking like this, and then we put it all together and it sounds like a large group. I'm sorry, what was the other part of the question?
It was, so the other one is like, any misconceptions you might hear from fans that want to start voice acting? So like people that want to like start this, but like they might think that they understand like how it works?
Somehow there became a rumor at some point that you had to have a friend in the industry in order to get into anime, and that is not true at all. What happened? I mean, if you're a company like Funimation and you're building up your group of actors, those actors are going to recommend other actors, so of course they know them.
Yeah.
Actors know other actors. So if you were with someone in a play, or you did some production, or you met someone, you go, hey, there's this thing going on at Funimation, they dub anime, and you should come up and try out sometime. And so you could say many people have gotten in because they knew someone, got their foot in the door, but that's not why we hired them. If you know someone and you're still not quite a solid actor, chances are you're not going to get hired.
It's talent first, guys.
Again, acting. Be an actor
very
first.
important.
And there are plenty of fans we have plenty of fans that work there that started out as anime fans, and they get it. They know how it works. Some of them have had experience, some of them have not had experience. So I mean, there are ways to get into voice acting without...
It's not impossible.
It's not all nepotism.
Yeah. So then the next question that I have for you is more about kind of your personal voice acting is, and what kind of roles have like challenged you in your voice acting ability? And that can be kind of character types that you might have had that kind of pushed your boundaries, or at specific characters in general that you might have had at one point where it was kind of hard to kind of get that sound just right.
Barry the Chopper was difficult, just by nature of the craziness level. He screamed a lot, is what it was. And that, that can be a little taxing on the throat. I think that's probably the only part I've ever done where I actually kind of lost my voice for a little while. It was like a day. So, I mean, it wasn't a big thing. I didn't lose it for a week or anything. Other than that, I'm never going to play the really big guy in an anime. I don't have the voice for it.
Yeah.
It's that simple. And a lot of times there are more mild characters that might have a higher voice, and they're, depending on how high that voice is or how young the character is, I'm not going to be playing them either. So my wheelhouse has always been, teenage guys. I can play adults, but again, it depends on the character and where their voice sits in the vocal register.
Awesome. That's super interesting. Yeah, that was one that I had in my mind, was maybe Barry the Chopper, because I do remember that, and I was like, that must be the worst to try to have to sit in the booth for
a lot of
hour. Yeah, I'd imagine. So we're going to actually switch to more directing kind of questions, because that's kind of more stuff that I'm interested in. I'm sure there's other people out there that would like to be directors as well at some day. So the first question that I have is, did your voice acting experience kind of help you towards directing? Like, is there anything that tried to help you?
Absolutely. I was voice acting for probably 13 years before I got the chance to be a director. And yeah, all of the acting I had done, and once I learned the process itself, then I started paying attention to how the directors worked that process. And being a director is not all directing the voice actor. Yes, that is an aspect of it, but there's a lot of organizational things that go on behind the scenes as well. Casting, booking, shifting schedules around, all of those things are things that are your responsibility as a director. So it's not all just sitting in a chair and making decisions on, I do like that read or I don't like that read. It's not that at all. So, you know, there was a little bit of learning I've had to do, and I've still got plenty learning that I can do and will endeavor to do. But yeah, voice acting was very important in figuring out the whole directing thing.
You actually jumped right into my next question, so that was a really great transition, and that is what process is like for being a director like that. So I guess to kind of shift the question then, is there like a specific like timeline of which your kind of responsibilities are? Because you did name some like casting, booking, and stuff like that.
Right.
And in what process does that kind of like go by? Or do you like, so like, is there any responsibilities that always have to come first, or can you like mix some of them depending on like time constraints or stuff like that?
Well, yeah. For example, sometimes we have auditions for a show, sometimes we don't, which means we just cast from the knowledge of the people we have working there. And then, depending on the time constraints, sometimes that's all you can do. And there are some shows that you know, you watch and you immediately go, I know who my cast is going to be. And so you just cast those people. And it works many different ways. Auditions are great though. They're fun if you have the time for them.
Yeah.
Because that's where you find your new talent. A lot of the veterans that are there, we kind of have an idea of what they're going to do and what they sound like because we've heard them in so many things over the years. So auditions are great because you get to find new people. But let's see, other parts of the process. Again, depending on the time, there are some shows that we do for DVD releases that we're going to have a little bit more time to work on those as opposed to the broadcast dubs that we've been working on lately. So, you know, you've got a little bit more time you can play with there, whereas the broadcast dubs, you don't get, first of all, you don't get to watch the whole show before you're recording it. And that's tricky, because you don't know what's coming from week to week. And some of our shows have, you know, a 2-week league, some of them have a 4-week league, which basically means from the time that show airs, 2 weeks later, we're going to have that show to put out there for you. Which is really, again, a very fan-driven kind of thing that we're working on. And everyone seems to like it, so chances that it's going away, it's not going away.
That was, when I heard about that, I definitely was like surprised that you guys were able to turn that around so fast, because when you do the broadcasting and stuff like that,
it can get very tricky. Because, you know, at most, sometimes you know, the best thing you can do is be prepared. You know, watch your episode. If you have new characters, be thinking about that casting, you know, so when it does come time that the script actually gets there, you've got it and you go. Because essentially, on a 2-week schedule, you're working with 5 recording days. You've got 5 recording days to finish that episode, and then it's going out. And so, you know, if 2 weeks ahead of time you watch it and you go, oh wow, there's a song. Okay, this character's going to sing. I didn't know that was going to happen when I cast this show. And you deal with it as best you can.
Very, very interesting. So the next question that I had, this is actually, I was talking to another Funimation director, Joel McDonald.
Yeah.
And he kind of, and I kind of want to know your side of this, and that's when you're directing a show, do you typically try to go towards what the original characters sound like, or you try to cast your kind of like what you think it should sound like? Because when I talked to Joel, he said like whatever the Japanese original sounds like, he's like, I really don't care. Like it's because he wants it to sound like his own work. And do you kind of feel like most directors kind of do that, or do you think that's more personal and just to him in general?
No, I think it differs. I think if they were to be honest, there are some directors who do it both ways, depending on the show. If there are voices, I will oftentimes base my casting on you know, whatever jumps out at me in the Japanese. If I hear one of the Japanese voices and I go, that sounds like so-and-so, well, chances are I'm going to cast that person in that role.
Yeah.
But it's not a must, you know. Every now and then someone comes in and gives you a read and you go, well, you don't sound like them, but you got the, you know, you've got the attitude, and that's really what I want, so you're going to be that guy. It doesn't have to match perfectly. The important thing to me is to get good actors, as I'm sure it is for Joel as well.
Yeah.
I think he would back me up on that. If you hire actors that know what they're doing, there's a large part of everything you've got to take care of, you know, as far as the show.
There's actually a weird tangent. When I went to one of his like voice acting panels, and he said like, bring me something when you audition. Is that like just something that he does? Because is that just like a joke? Because like he's like, you have to bring me something. Like get something out of the vending machine to show that you care.
You don't have to do that. Not at all.
Because like I think he said he puts that in his like director's notes when he has like this character slates. So he's like, make sure you do that if you ever audition.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Because I was like, that really is like super specific. I can't imagine that's something that all directors would want.
Well, sometimes, you know, it's fun to put things in the audition sides just to see who's reading what. Are they paying attention? Are they reading all the words? Did they read the explanation of the show? Did they read the character sides? Because, you know, some experienced actors will come in and go, yeah, anime person with it, okay, anyway. And they'll get right to figuring out how they want to read the lines. And so, you know, kind of let you know who's paying attention and who's not.
Yeah, for sure. So then my last question is more geared to people that want to start getting into voice acting, and that's like when you cast new people or you're auditioning for new people, what is it you're looking for? Because I know some directors might not necessarily cast them in that show, but they might keep them like in like contact lists or something like that. So is there like, if like, they don't match that specific roles, or anything that you might look for in those voices for future shows or anything like that?
I'm looking for actors.
Yeah.
Is what I'm looking for. Because when we do auditions, most of the time, there is no picture, there's no screen. We will have the sides that we have made up for them to look at, you know, to prepare. We'll have those that they can read, so they don't have to memorize lines or anything like that. But there is no picture, so we're going purely off of what we're hearing. And I think every director there would say, we're looking for actors, we're looking for people who can make us, you know, feel something while they're reading. I've had a couple of those. There's a young lady named Sarah Wheatonhead who is fairly new, but you know, she's one of those voices. First of all, she has a cute little mousy voice. She's got some range, and her audition was great. So it was one of those things where it's, and you hear it as soon as you know it, because believe it or not, folks out there, all auditions are not great. Matter of fact, you gotta go through a lot of auditions to find good people. She's one. There's another guy who is on fire right now. Justin Briner is his name. And the same thing. He was just so good at the audition compared to the, you know, all the groups that have been coming in, that it was like, well, I don't need to think about this. I want him in something.
Yeah.
You know, and the more other directors start coming around going, hey, who's this kid? You go, oh, he's great, you got to use him. And then they give him a try, and then they go to the next director and go, oh, he's great, you got to use him. And he's working a lot these days.
So then I actually do have one more last question, and that's kind of like this rise of like social media and like YouTube and stuff like that, and how that's yeah, that's like it's a
double-edged sword.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword for sure. And do you think that almost tries to breed more talent, because more people are seeing that normal people are doing these kind of like fan-made things? Do you think has it like?
I hope so.
Yeah.
You know, I hope so. I encourage everyone that if there's something you really want to do or something you enjoy doing, work on it. You know, make yourself better at it. Get together with friends, critique each other, do all of those things if this is really what you want to do, and don't stop doing that. You have to keep working. It's just like if you were playing an instrument. If you learned how to play an instrument and put in all of that work, and then you quit playing that instrument for 5 years, you're not going to be very good at playing that instrument. Well, I think it's the same thing with acting. You keep at it no matter, even if you're not in a part at the moment. If you didn't get the part in the play, it doesn't matter. Still get together with your friends or whoever you can, and read things. Work on what you want to do.
Yeah, for sure. I can definitely back that because I'm a person that's very creative.
You're working on what you want to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, I'm doing what I love right now. So keep at it because you definitely,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's gonna, everything. If you look at all my early stuff, it's all garbage. So don't. Everybody starts off rough at first, but if you just keep at it, you can definitely get somewhere great. Well, that's all I have for you. Thank you so much for taking the time to interview me, and make sure to keep out for any other Geek Kon content that I will be releasing anytime soon. Bye, guys.